Welcome everybody to a new episode of the Pondcast. Today's episode, From the Deep End, Pokemon we want to see have a past and a future form. My name is Draco, and joining me today is Guren.
Hey.
Chase.
What is cracking?
And from the passenger seat, Jay.
Yo.
And from Cayla's capsule, the lovely Cayla.
Hello.
So we are, 2-3 months into the new Pokemon mainline game of Scarlet and Violet. We have gone through the storylines, we have seen the Pokemon, and for those of you who have not played it, who have been still avoiding it, and I don't know how you've managed to, there are some talks about endgame content, so if you haven't beaten the game yet and you want to still be surprised, this would probably be a good time to just step away from the video, but if you don't care, or if you've already beaten the game, then stick on by, because today's episode is all about what Pokemons we want to see get the same treatment that Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet introduced for a handful of Pokemon. So, starting us off, Chase, this is your idea, so you kick it off.
Oh no, the pressure's on. Okay, I'm gonna start with my Violet Paradox Pokemon because it's more of a solid idea than my Scarlet one. So I decided to take a different approach, and instead of going with the whole robotic theme and all the metally things, I decided to go more along the route of climate change and how plants and that are going to die out in the future. So the Pokemon I chose was Trevenant, and in the world now, we get dead standing trees. They're called Widowmakers. So my Trevenant is very tall, dead standing tree. So he's going to be a ghost dark type. And I struggled picking a name for it. I kind of wanted to stick with the Widowmaker theme. So I kind of called it Widow's Dread. I mean, you can basically push a Widowmaker over with your hand. So defensively, it's not going to be very strong. It's not going to be very bulky in terms of HP, but its attack and special attack are going to be two of its best stats, because obviously, tree falls on your head, you go splat. No walking away. So yeah, that's my idea for my Violet Paradox Mon. And my Scarlet one, I know it's a bit cliche, but I went with Garchomp, and I wanted to try and take it back to being like more of a proper like swimmy shark in the ocean and incorporate more of the beta Garchomp designs. Again, I didn't know of a name for it, but I wanted it to be like a mix between Garchomp and Sharpedo, so more Megalodon-like, if you get what I mean. Again, because we all know I like the hard-hitting Pokemons. It'll have good attack, good special attack, good speed, and make it fairly bulky. So those are my two. I'd like to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I actually really like the idea of Garchomp because I feel like you could potentially make it more of a hammerhead shark if you go past, or more of a jet if you go future. So like that would be an interesting Pokemon to see in general.
Yeah, so I think that the Trevenant idea is really cool. I mean, it is current with the times of, we're so worried about climate change. And I think that's a really original idea. So I really like that. And breaking the mold of I feel like not every single Pokemon is going to be some sort of mech suit of its prior form, but also adapting into real world situations. So I think that's a really original, really cool idea.
The Trevenant thing is really cool. I like the fact that you didn't go with like how the Violet Paradox Pokemon are, how they're kind of like always like iron something where like just made full of metal, and you went with like the whole like the Widowmaker tree thing. I think that was pretty cool. And then the Garchomp thing as well in the past, where it's just like similar to like like if Sin and Sharpedo like mixed together because of like how similar they look now, and like how they're both. It kind of reminds me of like the whole like what I'm thinking of, but like that one theory that Birdkeeper Toby had about like Pokemon evolution. So like I do like how you came up with that idea for Garchomp and Sharpedo being like possibly the same thing before, and then just the fact that it sounds like an apex predator back then as well. Love it.
Yeah, I really agree. I like where you went with this. I'm glad that I really like the fact that you didn't do the whole iron treatment. So many, it's like pretty much every other Pokemon that we got for Violet, and still managed to keep not only the spirit of what Trevenant is, but also push past it and really make that solid point of what it's become, kind of like Corsola and Cursula. And I do love Cursula. I do love the thought behind it. As for the Sharpedo, yeah, I like the kickbacks to the beta Pokemon, and anytime you can find a way to incorporate those beta mons that we never got, that honestly were a lot of them were really solid. I would always go for it. I dig it. I love it. I dig it.
Okay, so they're my top 2 favorite Pokemon. And funny enough, I did go on this little tangent a couple years back where I started drawing some of my favorite Pokemon in like mech form. So this is actually perfect. The Scarlet version is actually of Nidoking. This is something that I did, actually posted it on Twitter, and it got liked by Jaden Animations. So I thought that was really cool. And I think seeing Nidoking, who's one of my favorite Pokemon, in that form would be awesome. And those little rocket things on its side would shoot out an advanced version of Poison Sting. So there's that. And then the Scarlet Paradox Pokemon would actually be Toxicroak. And the way I envision it is, I feel like Toxicroak, as it evolved in nature, it got bigger. So I feel like this past form of Toxicroak would be smaller, not super tiny, but like, more Dark Frog-esque in size, just as equal or even more lethal with its poison.
Thank you. Nidoking. That's like the first time I was like, oh my god, Nidoking, past Nidoking. Which is kind of funny because when it comes to my stuff later down the line. But yeah, that's very, very nice. Oh my god, Nidoking. And the Toxicroak thing as well. It's like when you talked about it like getting bigger, I don't know if I was having the same imagination, but I was just thinking like one of those like super like big frogs or something. Like the really big one. Like I was thinking of one of those things. I'm like, oh my god, Toxicroak turning into one of those. And then with like its face already, it's like, oh, can't imagine what this thing is planning or stalking for that matter. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with the Nido trend. I may have also had one similar-ish to that. I just feel like it's a Pokemon that needs more love, Like, it didn't get a Mega, like, it needs stuff. It needs something.
Thank you. I said the same thing when Megas came out.
The Nidoking, I really dig it. The shoulder cannons and what looks like rockets mounted to its back. Oh, it is just chef's kiss good. I also really like the idea of the poison dart frog, Toxicroak. I think you could come up with some like really designs for that. But yeah, really solid ideas.
I have to admit, I do dig the drawing of the Nidoking. I think this is solid. It definitely screams, I have walked down the wrong alley and I now regret life choices. And as for the frog, the first place I went to was the Koki. But then you're like, not too small, well, that road's half the Koki. But I could just imagine this smaller frog that just comes out of nowhere, jumps, leaps, slaps you with its tongue, and all of a sudden you're pretty much dying of toxicity. I definitely dig it. I like it.
All right, so I also kind of went down the Nido route, but for Scarlet as opposed to Violet. So I thought how we have Nidoran Boy and we have Nidoran Girl, and I thought about Screamtail and Fluttermane, and I was like, oh, what if we had like a past form Nidoran that was like a combination of both of them? So I named it Malign Spine, and it would basically be a Nidoran that's kind of like a cross between the two of the Nidorans we have, but with like a giant spiky spine. I would make it poison normal type because then it would be weak to ground. So it would be kind of like the newer Nidorans that we know and love today took it out because they're ground type. So they kind of like destroyed the other species. It would have a new move called Venom Wheel, which would be like a physical Venoshock. And it would also be another Baneful Bunker user, which I feel like we don't have enough of because like it would be this Pokemon that would kind of curl up in a little spiky ball to try to prevent the modern day Nidorans from killing it. So yeah, and it would also have moves that were like damaging itself, like it was almost accidentally going extinct on its own, like Double Edge and like Last Resort and things like that. So for Violet, I thought about Lantern because that's a Pokemon I feel like does not get enough love. Like it's got a really cool design, but its stats just like don't hold up most of the time. So I was like, oh, what if we had like a future form Lantern called Iron Light? So I made it electric flying. So instead of like going through the water, it was something that would be almost like a UFO with this like light. And it would have a new move called Enthralling Light that would always go last, but it would make the opponent skip their next turn. because it was late priority, that would be kind of like the downfall of it, but it would also allow the opponent to skip their next turn so you could get in a switch or you could get off a move like really safely. And then it would have like moves that were like low accuracy like Zap Cannon, and it would have lock on to try and work with that. But also moves like Discharge, and I thought like it could have chatter, like it would just like sound like there's these weird electrical noises, but it's a flying type move, so it goes with its type, and then like Air Cutter and things like that.
Wow, I think I'm in love.
First off, I don't know why I didn't think about it either, but Past Form Nidoran, where it was a combination of both, really don't know why I didn't think about it. But that is amazing. Like I feel like that would also be like the more correct one in a sense too, because you know with like how Nidoqueen worked and how Nidoking works, how it breathes and everything, it's like wonderful. I do like the fact that it has that thing where like it kind of like you said it curls into like a little wheel kind of thing too. I thought that was really cool. And then the Iron Light thing, I was like, I hope she's talking about a lantern. Just I had to ask and double like confirm. And then like when I found out about it, like when you're talking about it, I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. And then the moves itself is actually really, really nice. Like and just like the balancing that you're thinking about it as well, like putting it like it's a very low priority move like Trick Room where it would have to stuff, and then definitely would not be expecting it as well. So it would be really, really cool, especially with like Chatter, the Air Cutter as well, like a, you know, Zap Cannon lock on. Like I just think it's like really cool. Like a future lantern, I would love to see it.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the merging of the two Nidorans. I can picture some really sweet designs coming from those, and I definitely think it could be a fan favorite. The Lantern Paradox form, that again is just chef's kiss. That sounds like such a cool idea. Yeah, it would just be something really cool to see. And it's a move just as interesting as the concept of it.
Okay, so my first question, I was super excited to get to speak. Cayla, do you play D&D?
I do play D&D.
I could tell you've got some great ideas.
Thanks.
Wow. I mean, let's talk about Iron Light first. I think that is such a great concept, you know, and the moves that you made for these Pokemon were just very, very well thought out, I think. I'd love to see a move like that, and I just love the whole idea of it. I love even more the idea of Nidoking or Nidoqueen being this, you know, sort of same type of Pokemon, and the idea of giving it Baneful Bunker is, I absolutely agree 100%. So I'm just really excited. That was a delight. So thank you.
I have to say, yeah, when you started talking about your Nidoran past forms and the thoughts like, oh, it's like a Poison Dawn fan. I like where this is going. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm all for it. Let's do it. And I definitely agree. Baneful Bunker is such. I'm in a way I'm glad that it's kind of a signature move, but at the same time I really do feel there are some other Pokemon that could use that particular move, and it is such a great move too. And then when it comes to Iron Light, all right, I'm going to tell you right now, Lantern is actually one of my favorite Pokemon. It is on my top 10 list. It was actually the Pokemon I built a deck around back in the late 90s. Like I had the whole deck revolving around just Lantern. And so the concept of it being a future UFO, flying electric, I love it. The move, Enthralling Light, I think is a phenomenal idea, and it's a great use of the lantern. That physical ball in front of it. I'm in love with the idea. I love it. I want this. I've never wanted anything before in my life as far as Pokemon goes, and I want this.
So since we're all talking about Nidos here, I actually wanted to focus at first on both Nidoking and Nidoqueen. But then I thought about it and I was like, what if I just focused on Nidoqueen? What I thought was along the lines of, because of how breeding Nidorans work in the game, where you literally have to use like a Nidoking and a Ditto in order to pop out a Nidoran, and it could be either or, right? So I was thinking, what if in the past there was just like this Nidoqueen that was in charge, like it was just a Nidoqueen, and like maybe all of its like its pack or like its minions were all like Nidokings, so to speak. So I was thinking along the lines of Lazo. I was gonna call it Raging Matriarch. So it was like a really battle frenzied or like very like territorial-ish like Nidoqueen. Like I guess maybe it was just like, I don't know, maybe it was like too battle crazy to the point where like it probably just didn't last down the gene pool, where now it's just like all these like male Nidoran things that are more superior in number. Maybe for typing as an ancient Pokemon, maybe Poison Dragon. I think that sounds kind of reasonable. So since I still decided to stay with Nidoqueen, I went for its future form. So like somebody wanted to make this Nidoqueen that's like viable. Like, you know, maybe they found out about like Raging Matriarch, you know, and then they wanted to build something similar to it. So in this case, I just went with the nickname or the name Iron Empress. This one maybe like Poison Steel type, just to follow like, you know, a robotic trend kind of thing. I didn't really put too much thought into this one, but I just thought like maybe somebody just wanted to make one.
All I could picture is this ancient Nidoqueen. It's sort of like a kaiju, and then you have this Mecha Nidoqueen, and then they ditch it out, sort of like, you know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I thought, and I thought that's really cool.
Please, oh my god.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. It's now my personal headcanon that Giovanni goes to the future and makes like robot Nidoking and Nidoqueen, because that would be so cool. But yeah, the past one was really cool as well. So I feel like those Pokemon need more love.
Yeah, I really dig as Jay said, because I had a similar thought about Godzilla and Mecha Godzilla, and then, you know, Mecha Nidoqueen. But yeah, really solid ideas. I kind of want to see them now in the DLC when we do get it, because that would be amazing.
I have to admit, based on some of the rumors that were kicking around, like I was really hoping to see Nidoking or Nidoqueen in the games. And yeah, the fact that those are Pokemon that do need some more love. They were so great when they were first coming out, and you know, even with the addition of the extra typings, and now we've got all these fancy gimmicks going around, it always felt like Nidoking and Nidoqueen were slowly getting left behind. But I mean, they are definitely some really good, solid Pokemon, and I still think there's a lot of potential for them today. And to think about them being a past and a future form, especially for Nidoqueen, I'd like to see that. I really do. I think your idea is actually fairly solid, and I like it.
I just remembered something. So I don't know who says it in the game. I think it's the history teacher. But the 4 ruinous legendaries were each responsible for the downfall of a kingdom that was ruled by a greedy king. So I find it weird that last generation was based on a country that is for all intents and purposes a kingdom, and Nidoqueen and Nidoking didn't get anything last gen, and now that whole kingdom vibe is brought back to this, and we haven't actually seen them get any love as of yet.
For me, I kind of went old school. For my past type, I actually am a pusher for Gorochu, and yes, a couple of people probably saw that one going. But I've always thought that Gorochu should have been a thing. You know, a past version of Raichu, where instead of it just being a straight electric, it's, you know, electric fire or electric fighting, and it's generating so much power that it's just bulking its own muscle. So instead of it being a special attack type Pokemon, it's a straight on physical fighter, being able to use some of the signature moves like Plasma Fists, maybe something utilizing that tail like an Electro Whip or something like that, where it can slow down an opponent while giving it a shock, almost like Nuzzle kind of, but with more damage, because you're talking about literally something being whipping out at you, and it isn't not a small thing. It is a rather large thing. Again, I would like to see more proliferation of certain signature moves. I think some Pokemon really would benefit for having them. But again, I also do respect the fact that Pokemon keeping some moves as signature moves. So I do appreciate that. For my Futuremon, here's the funny thing. It's Crystallonix, because you turn Crystallonix into a giant geode snake, because it's over the course of time and heat and pressure and with moisture that these crystals actually form. So I could see like the outer shell of Onyx cracking in the far future, and inside you see these gems that are just completely crystallized all the way through, giving it an ability like, say, water absorb, since in the anime it's obviously immune to water. It's swimming around like a fish, so giving it water absorb kind of feels right, but it's like Crystal Serpent, something like that, something along those lines. And that's kind of where I went with it.
I really dig the idea of that geode onyx. I think it's a very cool concept. Gorochu, what more can I say other than it is past due to see him come to the franchise in some kind of way? Yeah, I like both of the ideas very much. I'm a bit more skewed towards the onyx though, but that's just me.
Crystal Onyx, water absorb. Why does that sound familiar? I remember that when we were making speculation on Pokemon Scarlet Violet, we talked about that. We talked about how it would be, with the terraforms, it would make so much sense for them to include Crystal Onyx in this game. But, now we know that effectively they didn't take their shot at that. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. Same with Chase's idea for Trevenant. You went in this direction where it's not a mecha thing, but effects that'll happen, truly in the real world. So I think that was a great take on it. As far as Gorochu goes, I mean, we'd all love to see it, but Pokemon and having Pikachu as Pokemon's mascot, I highly doubt they're going to make too many significant changes on it. It would still be wonderful to see, though.
I definitely have to agree. I think Gorochu just needs to come in already. Everybody who's seen it, everybody wants it. I'm assuming, anyways. And like having it as a pass form, though, I think that would actually be a good way to bring it into the series. I think, especially with like the whole Paradox thing. Heck, I would even take it if it was like a feature version too, honestly. But yeah, I think it's something we definitely want to see. Like I definitely want to see it myself. And then the future. Like I think that's also definitely like a good idea. It definitely makes sense too, like with how like in this case, like diamonds and gems are made. Like it's like all that pressurized thing, like over time, and heat. Sorry, pressure and heat over time. And I feel like that would also make like a really cool like deck centric too. Something like, oh, this is Onyx. I don't know. Maybe it was too polluted above ground or something. And then, so Onyx could not like thrive there, so they had to go underground, where they stayed underground, and then like sometime later they all emerge and they're all Crystal Onyx. Ooh, and maybe it becomes like a little bit more common, rare common kind of thing. But I think you could like go like pretty nuts with like a backstory for that too, like and how they came to be in like the Pokemon world. So that would be really great. And Crystal Onyx definitely another mod. I think like for people who've seen like the OG series and have seen it, would be like, I want that Pokemon. Why is it not in yet?
Yeah, I like the Crystal Onyx as well. I feel like they could kind of tie it into Mega Evolution, because they did that with a couple of the Paradox forms to say it's kind of like Mega Steelix. You know what I mean? Like it resembles a Pokemon that, they did that thing a couple times. So it'd be cool to see them do that again, like because of lore reasons especially. But yeah, I think if they do a Gorchu that's like a past form, I think they kind of would have to do a future form of it as well, because it's a mascot. But I am totally down for that, so hopefully they do.
And with that, brings our episode to a close. What do you think about our thoughts on these past and future Pokemon? Do you guys have any Pokemon that you want to see get the Scarlet Violet treatment? Let us know down below, and also be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And also, thank Jay from the passenger seat and Cayla from Cayla's Capsule for joining us on this episode. And as always, have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.